All right, so you guys, you really sent us some pretty intense stuff this time. We're diving into Darius's firsthand account of the dark web. And let me tell you, it gets pretty intense. You might think it's all urban legend, but his story is a stark reminder that the dark web is very real. And the consequences of venturing in can be terrifying.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about the dark web is that for
Mm.
most people, it exists in this kind of nebulous space somewhere between like myth and reality.
Hmm.
It's shrouded in secrecy, fueled by whispers of these hidden websites
Mm.
and all these illicit activities, which makes it incredibly alluring,
Yeah.
especially for someone like Darius, who, started out skeptical.
Yeah, he thought it was all fake, just like many people do, but then curiosity kind of took over. And he decided to see for himself. So he
Right.
downloads the Tor browser, which is like a key to this hidden world, right?
Right.
Tor uses a network of relays to bounce your internet traffic around the globe, making it extremely difficult to trace your activity.
Yeah, it's this anonymity that makes the dark web so appealing to those involved in illegal activities.
Yeah.
But it also makes it a haven for whistleblowers and activists operating in repressive regimes. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Huh?
Offers both protection and a platform for those who operate outside the bounds of the traditional internet.
So Darius, armed with Tor, finds himself on the Hidden Wiki, essentially a directory of hidden services on the dark web, and that's where the initial shock sets in, right?
Right.
It's a stark contrast to the familiar, everyday internet. He finds links for weapons, stolen credit card data, drugs, the kind of stuff you only hear about in hushed tones.
Yeah, the Hidden Wiki is just one example of these hidden services that exist on the dark web. And these websites use special domain names and can only be accessed through the Tor network. They operate outside the reach of conventional search engines, making them virtually invisible to the average internet user.
But amid the more expected illegal offerings, Darius comes across something truly disturbing. A link with a cryptic message, it says. Only continue if you are meant to be here. Almost like a challenge or a lure.
Yeah, this is where the psychology of the dark web comes into play. It plays on our inherent curiosity, our desire to explore the forbidden and delve into the unknown. For someone like Darius, who already had a healthy dose of skepticism, this kind of message would be very difficult to resist.
He clicks the link, and it leads him to a live stream. Picture a dark room, a single chair in the middle, and a chat box flickering with messages. Suddenly, a man enters dragging a terrified woman with him.
What unfolds next is a scene straight out of a nightmare. It's a horrifying display of torture. And the most disturbing part is that the viewers in the chat box are actively participating, paying in Bitcoin for specific acts of cruelty.
It's like a twisted pay-per-view event where human suffering is the main attraction. And the use of Bitcoin adds another layer of anonymity and untraceability to these transactions. While Bitcoin itself isn't inherently illegal, its decentralized nature and the difficulty in tracking transactions make it a preferred currency for illicit activities on the dark web.
Yeah, this highlights one of the key challenges law enforcement agencies face when trying to police the dark web. The decentralized nature of the network, combined with encryption and anonymizing tools like Tor, make it incredibly difficult to identify and apprehend perpetrators. It's like trying to catch a ghost.
And Darius, trapped in this nightmare scenario, is unable to close the window or escape the live stream. His sense of anonymity is shattered when the torturer turns to the camera, addresses him by name, and even mentions details about his location.
This is where that false sense of security that the dark web provides is completely ripped away. Darius realizes that he's not just an anonymous observer. He's become a target. The digital world has breached into his reality, and the consequences are terrifying.
Panicked, Darius immediately shuts down his computer, deletes the Tor browser, and tries to convince himself that it was all just a bad dream. But it's not over yet. The real-world consequences of his dark web foray are just beginning.
Darius's experience is like this chilling reminder that actions on the dark web can have very real,
Yeah.
very serious real-world consequences. It's kind of like, when you drop a pebble in a pond
Mm.
and you watch the ripples spread outward, impacting everything in their path.
Yeah, it's like the digital and physical worlds are colliding. You go in thinking you're anonymous, but then you leave a trace, a digital footprint. That can be exploited.
Exactly. And what's even more unsettling is that Darius's nightmare. It doesn't end when he disconnects from the dark web.
Right. He later discovers that his camera has been hacked. Someone has been remotely taking pictures of him in his own home. It's a violation of privacy on a whole other level.
Yeah, this is a real concern with today's technology. Most devices, they have cameras and microphones. And if they're compromised, they can be used for surveillance without the user's knowledge. It's a stark reminder that we need to be more aware of the devices that we use and the potential security risks that they pose.
And the psychological torture continues. Darius starts finding things in his house that don't belong to him.
Hmm.
Pictures, objects. It's like a breadcrumb trail left by an unseen intruder.
Can you imagine that? That constant fear, the feeling of being watched. This is where the psychological impact of the dark web truly takes hold. It's no longer just about illegal activities or hidden websites. It's about the erosion of safety and security in one's own home.
Then one day, Darius comes home to find his door unlocked. He's terrified, thinking the people from the live stream have found him. He grabs a weapon, searches his house, but he finds nothing until he sees it.
No.
A simple message on his bed. Thought we wouldn't find you. It sends chills down your spine just thinking about it.
It's a classic tactic of psychological manipulation, designed to instill fear and maintain control. By leaving a physical trace, they've crossed the boundary between the digital and real world, making the threat all the more tangible and terrifying.
At this point, Darius feels completely helpless. He calls the police, hoping they can offer some protection, but even they seem overwhelmed by the nature of the threat. They promise to increase patrols in his area, but it's a small comfort.
Yeah, this highlights the limitations of traditional law enforcement when it comes to dealing with cybercrime, especially that originates from the dark web. It's just so complex. It's this constantly evolving landscape that requires specialized knowledge and tools to navigate effectively.
So what can be done if even the police are struggling? How can ordinary people protect themselves from these kinds of threats?
That's where awareness and proactive security measures become really crucial. We need to educate ourselves about the potential dangers of the internet and take steps to mitigate risks.
Like, using strong passwords.
Absolutely. Strong passwords are the first line of defense. We need to move beyond these simple, easily guessed passwords and use a combination of upper and lowercase letters, numbers and symbols, and avoid using the same password for multiple accounts. It's like having a different key for each door in your house.
Right. And what about VPNs? I hear those mentioned a lot in connection with online security.
Yeah, VPNs, or virtual private networks, are essential tools for protecting your online privacy, especially when using public Wi-Fi. What they do is they encrypt your internet traffic and mask your IP address, making it much harder for third parties to track your activity or intercept your data. It's like putting on a disguise when you go online.
So if you're going to venture into any corner of the internet, even the seemingly safe parts, a VPN should be a standard precaution.
Absolutely. It's a small investment in your privacy and security that can pay off big time. But even beyond these technical tools, we also need to develop critical thinking skills when it comes to online interactions.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, we need to be discerning about the information we consume online and the links that we click. Don't trust everything you see, especially on social media or in emails from unknown senders. If something seems too good to be true or overly sensationalized, it probably is.
It's like that old saying, if you see a deal that's too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly.
Right.
Apply that same logic to the online world. Be wary of phishing scams, fake websites, and offers that require you to share personal information. And remember, your gut instinct is often a good indicator of whether something is legitimate or not. If it feels off, it probably is.
So it sounds like navigating the digital world safely requires a combination of technical know-how and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Precisely. We need to be both tech-savvy and street-smart when it comes to online security.
Okay, so we've covered how to protect ourselves online, but going back to the dark web, I think many people are fascinated by the psychology behind it. What drives someone to venture into such a risky space in the first place?
That's a complex question, but I think it boils down to a few key factors. Curiosity, a desire for anonymity, and in some cases, a thrill-seeking mentality. The dark web represents the unknown, the forbidden, and for some, that's just irresistible.
It's like that saying, curiosity killed the cat.
But the saying continues, but satisfaction brought it back. And I think that speaks to the allure of the dark web. It offers a sense of freedom, a place where you can explore without judgment, where the rules of the traditional internet don't apply.
But as Darius's story so clearly shows, that freedom comes at a price.
Exactly. The anonymity of the dark web can be a double-edged sword. It can protect those who need it, like whistleblowers and activists.
Yeah.
But it can also be exploited by criminals
Yeah.
and those with malicious intent.
And the consequences, as we've seen, can be devastating.
Absolutely. Darius's experience is a stark reminder that the dark web, while often shrouded in mystery and myth, is a very real place with very real dangers. It's a place where the lines between the virtual and the real world can become dangerously blurred.
So what can we learn from Darius's experience? What are the key takeaways for our listeners? who are trying to make sense of this complex and often unsettling part of the internet.
I think the most important takeaway is that the dark web is a reflection of humanity itself. It has its good and bad sides, its heroes and villains,
Yeah.
its opportunities and
It's like
dangers.
a microcosm of society, just hidden from view.
Exactly. And like any tool, it can be used for good or evil. It's up to us as individuals and as a society to understand the complexities of the dark web and to use that knowledge to navigate this new frontier responsibly.
So it's not about demonizing the dark web, but about approaching it with caution, awareness, and a critical eye.
Precisely. We need to be informed, proactive, and always mindful of the potential consequences of our actions, both online and offline. Because as Darius's story shows, what happens in the digital world
Yeah.
can have a profound impact on our real lives.
Darius's story is a powerful reminder that the dark web isn't just, some abstract concept. It's a place where real people can get hurt, and the consequences can be both digital and physical.
It's a sobering reminder that our online actions can have very real offline repercussions. We can't simply disconnect from the digital world and pretend that it doesn't affect our lives.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I'm wondering, what can our listener take away from Darius's experience to, navigate this increasingly complex online world more safely?
Well, I think the first step is acknowledging that threats exist.
Yeah.
A lot of people have this misconception that cybercrime only happens to others, or that they're not a target.
It's like thinking you won't get robbed because you live in a safe neighborhood.
Exactly.
Oh,
Cybercriminals are opportunistic. They're constantly scanning the internet for vulnerabilities, and anyone can become a victim. So awareness is key. We need to educate ourselves about the types of threats out there and the tactics that criminals use.
So it's not just about avoiding the dark web.
No, not at all. While the dark web certainly harbors a higher concentration of criminal activity, cyber threats exist everywhere online. Social media, email, even seemingly legitimate websites can be compromised.
Okay, so awareness is the first step. What else can people do to protect themselves?
Strong passwords are absolutely essential. I know it's been said before, but it bears repeating. Use a combination of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols, and avoid using the same password for multiple accounts.
It sounds like common sense, but you'd be surprised how many people still use weak passwords, like password 123.
It's like leaving your front door unlocked. You're practically inviting trouble.
So, strong passwords, check. What else?
Enable two-factor authentication whenever possible. This adds an extra layer of security by requiring a second form of verification, like a code sent to your phone or email before you can access your account. It makes it much harder for someone to gain unauthorized access, even if they steal your password.
Got it. And what about software updates? Are those important?
Absolutely. Software updates often include security patches that fix vulnerabilities that hackers could exploit, so it's important to keep your operating system, apps, and antivirus software up to date.
It's like getting regular checkups at the doctor. You're keeping your system healthy and preventing problems before they arise.
Exactly. And speaking of antivirus software, it's another crucial tool for protecting your devices from malware and other threats. Choose a reputable antivirus program and keep it running in the background to scan for and block potential threats in real time.
It's like having a security guard for your computer, constantly on the lookout for anything suspicious.
Right. And finally, be wary of phishing scams. These are attempts to trick you into revealing personal information, such as passwords or credit card numbers, by posing as a legitimate organization or individual.
Oh, you mean those emails that look like they're from your bank or a trusted online retailer, asking you to click a link and update your account information?
Exactly. Never click on links or open attachments in emails from unknown senders. If you're unsure about the legitimacy of an email, contact the organization directly through their official website or phone number.
So it sounds like staying safe online is a combination of being proactive and using common sense.
That's a great way to put it. It's about being aware of the risks, taking steps to mitigate them, and thinking critically before you click or share information online.
So to bring it all back to Darius, what would you have done in his situation?
It's a tough question,
Mm.
and there's no easy answer. But I think facing a situation like that, the first priority would be to ensure physical safety. Contacting the authorities, even if they may not be fully equipped to handle cybercrime, would be a crucial start.
And seeking help from cybersecurity experts who can assess the situation and provide guidance on mitigating further risks.
Absolutely. It's important to remember that you're not alone. There are resources available to help victims of cybercrime.
So the deep dive doesn't end here. It's a continuous process of learning, adapting, and staying vigilant in this ever-evolving digital world.
And it's a journey we all take together. The more we share knowledge and raise awareness, the safer we'll all be online.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Remember, the internet is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil. It's up to each of us to use it responsibly and to protect ourselves and those we care about from the dangers that lurk in the digital shadows. Stay safe out there. And until next time, keep diving deep,